Mike, good morning. How are you?
Well, being that you're going from Will Ferrell down to me, I mean, you're bringing your audience down with a crashing thud having to listen to my boredom. But I'm great. I'm great. Thank you.
But you're serious. You're newsworthy. So I saved you for last after Will Ferrell. All right. Where do you want to start with this? If you were analyzing this as the head of officials today, would you be focusing on the officials, Beckham, anything else here that I'm missing?
Well, I'd be finished with Beckham. They would have met already in my office in New York, and we would have looked at all of the plays that he was involved in, amongst other big plays from the weekend. But the focus clearly would have been on that, and they would have asked me two critical questions. You know, how many times did he really commit a foul? And I think I would have said 5. And 3 were called against him of the critical, the unnecessary roughness type fouls. And they would have asked me the question of if I felt that I should have had my officials eject him. And my answer at that point would have been yes. It's so easy in hindsight because when you're on the field, you're just trying to keep order, and it's really not in your MO to throw out people. But when it got to that point, you know, I think he should have been thrown out. And I think the league will actually take that information and put it into their decision as to whether to suspend if we're saying that he should have been ejected and he wasn't, and he was around for the fourth quarter in the comeback and certainly was a big part of that. And I think it'll lean toward their decision into actually suspending him for a game. Whether they do that or not, that's going to be up to, you know, the Troy Vincents and the Merton Hanks of the world, and not the Dean Blandinos. But, you know, I'm sure that his opinion would be much like the same of mine, in that he wishes that they would have that they would have ejected him at some point, most likely right after that last shot, where he did two things. He ran downfield and took a shot at Norman going by him, and then lined him up and nailed him on the way back. And I think they would have certainly prepared or wished that they would have ejected him at that point.
The officials get punished in this situation by the league?
You know, I don't know that punished is going to be the right word. I mean, certainly they did do what they could, and short of the ejection, they went to both coaches early and tried to get it settled down. Didn't work. Through 7 unnecessary roughness calls after that in trying to keep control by way of flag. And I think you have to be somewhat cognizant of how it is on the field when you're trying to restore order without a kick or a punch. Yes, the lineup on the picking Norman off the pile, but you know, even that might not have registered it bad because it didn't even seem to faze Norman. So yes, you know, I think they're going to say to them, if you get in this situation again, and probably send out a memo to all 122 officials, or at least put it on their training video, saying if games get to this point where the motions are running that high and you do everything that Terry McAuley did and it doesn't work, then throw people. Because the other thing I think you look at is if the Giants would have come back and won that game with Odell Beckham still in the game, when most of us thought that he should have been out of the game, and he would have been certainly a key part of the comeback, then I think there'd be a lot more conversation going on today than there actually is.
He's Mike Periera, Fox Sports officiating analyst, the former head of NFL officials, joining us Dan Patrick Show. I thought the helmet-to-helmet, though, Mike, crossed the line to a suspension. I understand the punch should have gotten him thrown out, but I thought the helmet-to-helmet, and you're right, Norman sort of brushed it off, but imagine if he gets concussed or something worse happens, and sometimes we look at the end result before we hand out the punishment.
Well, I think that the other thing that you look at is, was it a football act? I mean, and by that I mean, was he trying to make a play? When you look at hits on defenseless players, you know, you get the big hits, but they're trying to make a play. I mean, they're trying to dislodge the ball. There's no football act here. No. I mean, this was just an act to punish, and with intent. And so, you know, they'll certainly discuss that aspect of it too. And when you get to that area of it not being a football act and just clearly nothing but an intent to punish, then that will probably, push the meter over to the suspension side.
Have the refs been shakier this year, or is it just social media criticism is at an all-time high?
Well, I can't quantify in terms of number of mistakes that that have been made. I think it's been smoother over the last 3 weeks. You haven't had the type of mistakes that they made early on in big times, which are things like blowing a whistle during a play, not keeping the clock running when you should have stopped it with Sammy Watkins going out of bounds, not shutting a play down for a false start when a team didn't get set, which cost the Ravens a victory. I think that there just was a real run of high-profile, really inexcusable mistakes, ones that are hard to rationalize. But I do think that, as I've watched it over the last 3 weeks, we're talking now about the extent of how far McCauley and his crew should have gone in the Giants game, but now it almost seemed more typical to me with the missed pass interference calls and those types of things, which you're always going to get. But, social media certainly contributes to it, because it wasn't that long ago when I used to sit in the office and say, we missed that, but nobody's going to know. That's not the case anymore. With social media, not only does everybody know, they know about 30 seconds after it happens. And so there's just more focus on it, and guys like me that are out there talking about it more, and I think that's just the way of the world. I don't think that the focus is going to change, and I think they're just going to have to buckle up the bootstraps and get a little better, when it comes to overall officiating.
But are we headed towards more replay?
I certainly hope not, because, as I really move toward a fan, I get somewhat tired of replay, and I think it's easy to sit back and say, let's get more replay. Let's go to Bill Belichick's thing where he says, let us review everything. It won't increase the number of challenges, because we only have 2, and we won't change that, and we'll get a third if we get the first 2 right. But it will dramatically increase the number of challenges, because right now, through 15 weeks of the season, the number of coaches' challenges per game is less than 1.75 coaches' challenges per game. If you open up the door and let them challenge anything, whether it's the play clock or an offside penalty, you're going to triple that. And then I think the game's going to become even more choppy than it is now. And, if you look at it, game time is up already. Penalties are up, although not substantial. And if you want more replays to chop up the game more, then go ahead. But I, for one, don't think that they will add really very much in the near future.
Why do we need a catch committee, Mike?
I don't know, and why am I not on it? I want to be on that committee. They ignored me, for God's sakes. They put on a deep official that hasn't been on the field for 15 years, Tom Finken, although I love him. But I think much of what the league does is PR motivated, and that's what this catch committee is. It's PR motivated. They're not going to change a thing. They made a little wording change last year in terms of, the runner going to the ground and having to control the ball. But, this is a PR move to appease all the people that are out there that's saying that they don't know what a catch is. And I admit it took me a while, but I think I have it. And I think that the focus, again, with social media, the focus has been on maybe 2 or 3 plays a weekend at max amongst all the other incomplete passes or catches that have, confused people because of the one subjective area, which is holding onto the ball long enough as defined by the rule book to become a runner. There's subjectivity in it. There's going to be subjectivity in it, and they can have all the committees they want, but unless it's the competition committee to make some drastic change to say it's a catch if you get control and 2 feet on the ground, period, then that's the only way that you would change it. But then that would result in so many catch fumbles, that I don't think the committee will even consider going down that road.
Did you see the movie Concussion?
Not yet, but I'm certainly gonna. And I'm very interested in what the movie has to say. Obviously it's a topic even that I have to deal with, as I speak to people around the country, and I'd like to be as knowledgeable as I can about it. But I am looking forward to see what it says. From what I've heard, it's gotten good reviews in the early people that have seen it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Mike, thank you for joining us.
You got it. Anytime. Have a great day and have a great, happy, and healthy holiday season.
Happy everything, Mike.
You got it.
Thank you. Mike Periera, Fox head of officials, used to head up the NFL.